Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race. We are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 282 of the Running for Real podcast and our first episode of 2022, which is a bit strange considering it is, as you are listening to this, going to be the 14th of January. I did not release an episode last week. I just couldn't get it together. After 4 years of never missing an episode, having 2 children during that time, one 3.5 weeks early, I'd always managed it. But I just felt like forcing an episode for the sake of an episode was just not the right choice for me and my mental health. And I was just enjoying my final few days at home in England after almost 2.5 years of being away. And I just couldn't do it. So I let it go and, nothing happened. Everyone was okay. No one said, how dare you skip an episode? And it was yet another, I think, part of my journey where I learned that I am not my accomplishments and my successes, which relates well to the episode I'm going to share with you today. Now, today it is a somewhat solo episode. You're going to be primarily hearing from me. However, I have coerced my husband, Steve, my coach, who coached me to all my personal bests when I was a professional athlete. And he has coached hundreds of athletes, maybe even nudging into thousands at this point, successfully. And so I thought I would gently push him into coming on the show with me. He has been on in the past, but he's not really he's quite an introvert. So he's not really someone who likes to do podcasts and likes to be doing media-like requests. But however, I have asked him to come join me for part of this because I think his insights are really valuable. But I figured I would do a solo episode on goals, expectations, thinking through your plans for the year, and just talking about some of the things that generally tend to come up. And if you're looking for an episode or some advice for how to really go get that big goal and I'm going to light a fire under you and really motivate you to go get what you want, this is not that. And I am actually going to be doing a lot of the opposite. In explaining, and I have good reasons, and Steve will be able to attest to this, and maybe he'll have his own opinions. Sometimes we don't agree on things, and I think that is okay too. So we are going to be talking through some of the concepts and the goal setting plans and schedules and how to set out your year. But Steve has this, I've mentioned this many times before, has this incredible brain that is able to work out training plans and really know how to maximize people's potential, get them to the race that matters to them at their peak while not putting pressure on and making it feel like the athlete is worthless if they don't accomplish what they hope they will do. Because at the end of the day, a coach can only get you so far. And as we know, it is the space between our ears that really determines how well we're going to do. We could be as fit as we'd ever been in our life, but if we mentally are absolutely freaking out, it probably isn't going to come together. So that being said, today we're going to talk about some of the traps that people fall into, the way that you could look at your training instead. We're going to look at those of you who have big goals or big things you want to achieve this year. We're going to look at those, talk a little bit about those of you who you're running fastest running times maybe behind you, and I fall into that category. And also those of you who don't want goals or are struggling to find goals. We're going to talk about some of each of those pieces. And I hope this is going to be a helpful episode for you. First, before we do that, I want to just take a moment to thank one of our sponsors today, and that is Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is a brand I have been working with for many years now. Athletic Greens is a health and wellness company that makes comprehensive daily nutrition really, really simple. With many stressors in our lives, it's difficult to maintain an effective nutritional habits and give our body the nutrients they need to survive and thrive. Busy schedules, poor sleep, exercise, the environment, work stress, honestly, is something I've done in the past. Simply not eating enough of the right foods can leave us deficient in key nutritional areas. AG1 by Athletic Greens is the category-leading superfood product that brings comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition to everyone. Keeping up with the research, knowing what to do, and taking a bunch of pills and capsules is hard on the stomach. And it's hard to keep up with and hard on the mind, can I just add there? To help each of us be at our best, Athletic Greens simplify the path to better nutrition by giving us the one thing with all the best things. One tasty scoop of AG1 contains 75, yeah, you heard that right, 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients, including a multivitamin, multi-mineral, probiotic, greens superfood blend, all in one convenient daily serving. The special blend of high-quality bioavailable ingredients in a scoop of AG1 work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet, support your energy and focus, aid with your gut health and digestion, and support a healthy immune system. Effectively, it replaces multiple products and pills with one healthy, delicious drink. I have been taking Athletic Greens for many years. As you have heard me talk about, it is the number one thing I love in my life. I have it. Okay, I shouldn't say the number one thing I love in my life. It is one of my favorite things I take in my life and enjoy in my life. I have it first thing every morning when I wake up. My girls love to drink it with me. They ask for scoops of it, or they ask for sips of it every day, which is just really fun. And you, my friend, if you live in Canada, in the US, in the UK, in Europe, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs when you go to athleticgreens.com/Tina. That is athleticgreens.com/Tina. Okay. So we talked about one of our sponsors. We talked about what this episode is going to be about. So are you ready to dive right in? I don't know when Steve is going to get in here. He is on the phone with a recruit for next year for his university team. And he said he would come up and join me. I'm sitting in our closet right now because our little girls are trying to go to sleep. So I'm just going to start talking. And when he comes in and joins me, he comes in and joins me. The first thing I want to talk about is those of you listening who have some big things you want to do this year. Now, I'm talking about those of you who say, I have this really big goal that I want to accomplish, or I really want to make this year count, or this has to be the year I do XYZ, whatever that may be. When we think of our running in those terms, we are kind of setting ourselves up for failure. The fun is sucked right out of it. The shoulds, the musts, the have to start to slip in. And it makes it really difficult to sustain and to continue with that level of motivation and to actually honestly reach your potential. Anytime we put a time limit on something, saying it has to be done at this time, or we say to a race, this is my one shot, we use that like Eminem-like approach, we're really putting ourselves in a place where it's unlikely that we are going to be able to reach our goal. And even if we do reach it, we're going to have missed so much along the way. I know we all learned about, or I at least learned about SMART goals in school, which let me see if I can remember them. Specific, measurable, is it actionable, realistic, and time. And I know some of those mentioned there kind of go against what I just said right there. But I really think that for many of us, having that goal with a time limit is just going to add to the pressure, add to the stress of our life when we already have enough that we put on from ourselves, from other obligations, from other things. And it's our running that is our escape. It's our thing that we get to enjoy and be ours and be something that is freeing. And even when I was running at the professional level, I definitely took things way too seriously and was one of those people that I have to do this now. But even saying it like that, it's very tense and restrictive and wasting energy on being tense and tight. And I've talked on Together Runs about how Mary Kane said in the interview we did last summer, which you can go listen to if you want to go back and check that out. She talked about holding an egg in your hand. That's how relaxed you want to be. Because if you tense up, you're wasting energy by tensing your hand. And that's what happens in our lives when we take these running goals too seriously. And we find ways to make it stressful when it's supposed to be a hobby and it's supposed to be something we enjoy. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, having a date that I want to accomplish this by, or a specific race I want to do this, helps me to visualize. It helps me to focus on those days I'm struggling. It helps me to motivate myself on the day I don't want to. If I don't set a date or a time limit to complete it, then I'll procrastinate. And besides, I only get so many opportunities to race, and I can't afford to waste one by just letting it go and seeing what happens. I get you. I was there too. I very much thought that way. And I know it can feel sometimes like that is the only way to do it, especially if you're someone who is going for a qualifier. And it might feel like that's your only opportunity that you get to do it. But sometimes goals and things unfold in a way that we might not expect. And I think it comes down to we have this need to prove our commitment. We've been bombarded for many years by this messaging that says, no pain, no gain. You gotta show how much you want this. Whoever wants it the most is going to get it. It's even, I'm a big fan of Rocky Balboa, but like even that movie is about who wants it most. And that's great. And for professional athletes, you have to be at that level where you do sacrifice a lot. And there is a lot of commitment in there. And it has to be about how much do you want it. And when I was a professional athlete, I couldn't even reach that top level. There were certain things I was just not willing to commit to reach to the next level. But for the rest of us who it's a hobby and something we enjoy, that need to prove our commitment puts us in a dangerous place. We already walk the line between commitment and obsession as runners. And I really think that having that need to commit pushes us over into the part of obsession. Now, I get so many emails each and every week from many of you, from many listeners and readers and people who follow me, telling me just how committed they are. Not saying, look how committed I am, but it's kind of like, I've done this and I've committed this and I've trained for this and I do this many miles and I'd go above and beyond and I'd like just adding constant reinforcements of what they feel is important, and just how much time they're putting into the sport, how hard they are trying. But again, it comes down to when it's that like, got to, like it's so, it just adds that stress to our bodies and to our minds. And these people often feel that they're being punished by the running gods with an injury or burnout, even though they often can't see the burnout or overtraining, having bad races, when in reality, it's just trying too hard. And I know that can be a hard pill to swallow. And trust me, I have been there. I've tried too hard for many, many races and for many, many builds up. And I'm sure those around me could see it. But I want to be that person for you that lets you know that if you keep trying for the same goal and keep it feeling like it's so stressful on race day that you feel like you could throw up, you feel like you're going to be a failure without it, it's time to back away. And I'm not saying you can never go back there, but something has to give. I think I can hear Steve coming. Are you ready to join me? I'm recording right now. Come sit down. All right, I'm going to turn the mic. We're sitting in the closet. Yep. Steve Picucci, welcome to the Running For Real podcast. Welcome back.
Thanks.
We are currently sitting in our closet because we're both squished in here. Our girls are trying to go to sleep and we want to keep them that way. So I've told the listeners what you're going to be doing in here. And I was just talking about how in the past I have done this, but many runners do this, and you know this from your experience of working with athletes, that quite often people get into this state where they're like, I really want to do this. I want to try so hard. I'm going to do everything I can. And how often when you commit to it in that level, like I was just about to say, when I was in college and when I started to improve, I felt like I couldn't run with the other girls. I was too fast for them and I had to run my easy runs faster, and I had to, cut out sugar all the time. And I had to do all these things that I felt were proving my commitment, but I felt were actually, now I feel were actually really damaging because it was just too much. And so, yeah, I was just talking about, I'd love for you to maybe share about some of the things that you have seen in terms of people wanting a goal so badly, and how that often doesn't work out when you want it too much.
So I think it's not just people unless I want to reach a goal. I think it's people get so wrapped up into certain aspects of training and not realizing that there's so many different things that go into it. If you just obsess over everything, then you're never going to really see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like you're constantly overanalyzing everything and so focused on it. Everything's got to be perfect that people just kind of miss the fact that one of the most important things about it is you just got to be consistent, and you're never going to be consistent if you're overtraining and you're getting hurt. And even if you're not getting hurt, you're not training at the highest level because you've overtrained. So then your workouts aren't as quality, or you're just never really recovering or never really getting the maximum benefit from the workout because you're not doing the other things you need to do to get faster. So the biggest mistake I see people make is they just get so wrapped up into everything that's, especially now with all the GPS watches and all the data and all the splits and the Strava segments and all that stuff, that people just get so focused on that they forget that there's other parts of training. I always tell the athletes I work with that a lot of the stuff we do outside of the running is just as important or more important than the actual running you do.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, you said about, over analyzing things, thinking things through. Do you think there's some element of, because we are constantly, we see athletes on the Olympics and they say, I did this and I did that and I committed and blah, blah, blah. And we see them, and then we see on the media that you see people like gritting their teeth and grinding and giving it their all. Even on social media, the people we follow say how hard they try. But do you think the average runner, or someone who isn't taking it seriously, someone who isn't in college, and it isn't their livelihood, what do you think to that in terms of what does that do to a runner when they are trying to compare themselves to people whose job it is or whose athletic college career is?
Well, I think you're comparing apples to oranges, because someone who's a high-level college athlete or a professional, they're still recovering and taking their easy days and being smart and doing all those things. But you don't see that. They're not going to post that as often. Or maybe they will. I don't know. I don't really use social media. But what the person who's just doing it for themselves, they can kind of think that that's the only way to do it, when in reality there's so much that you're not seeing what these people are doing. Plus, like I said, you likely have a job, or you're doing some other kind of educational, so you're so busy, you got kids, all that. So it's learning to just prioritize what the quality is, get the maximum benefit of the time you have in training rather than trying to just overdo everything. And then, eventually you're going to fall off the edge of the cliff.
Okay. So then 3 things I want to just mention there related to that. Steve was saying about not comparing yourselves to these elite lifestyles, or not considering the other things that you need to keep in mind. But we also want to be able to enjoy foods that are social. So be able to eat a piece of birthday cake, or be able to go out to dinner without stressing about getting the healthiest option, being able to actually enjoy those moments. And we all want to exercise and run and find things that are, make us feel good, but we also don't want running to overtake our lives. And we all want to be able to push ourselves when it matters, but we don't have to get tunnel vision and think that that's the only thing we do to have any value or to be worth anything. Is there anything else that you would add related to that for people who do find themselves kind of banging their head against the wall year after year or race after race because they really want this thing and it just never seems to come together?
I don't know. I guess the biggest thing I would say is just kind of cut yourself a little bit of slack. And it's okay to have that big, top step goal, but you've got to just focus on the little goals, the intermediate steps to get to that big goal. So I think one of the things that people don't do is they don't take pride in the little steps of, trying to reach a certain milestone in a time. You've got to appreciate the little steps as you get there. That big goal is what will get you out of bed in the morning or get you out on the run at night when it's dark and no one else wants to do it. But you've got to have those little intermediate goals and intermediate steps. And
what would be an example of an intermediate goal?
Well, say you want to run 3:30 for the marathon, but you've never broke 3:45. So that's obviously, I'm talking about that little thing. Or I want to be consistent over the next calendar year rather than have a bunch of time off. So it's just those things. Hey, I've been consistent. I've had really good 6 to 9 months of training, or those kind of things, rather than just, it doesn't always have to be a number.
Okay. So then moving towards a different way of approaching things for people who have found themselves in those ruts. I'd love to go over a way of, I've talked often in the past, but not recently, about people bigging. I know you agree with me on the way that we approach goals in terms of, it's good to pick a big, scary, lifetime accomplishment goal that can seem in the moment almost impossible and is probably bigger than most of you listening are thinking right now. Like, it should be something pretty big that is realistic, but right now seems so far out of reach. And it's good to have a big goal like that, something that scares you. And as you mentioned just a minute ago, it's a carrot to get you out of bed on a cold winter morning and make you do those little things like you said about foam rolling or doing your strength training, doing, getting your shoes regularly changed, going to get a massage, things like that. But that goal, I think people often end up thinking that it has to be immediate and it has to be something that, like you said about the intermediate steps along the way. What would you say in terms of that, how people can know what a big scary goal is for them, but also be okay with the fact that it might not happen for, like I've talked about with me, 14 years it took me to get that goal of mine. So what would you say in terms of how to pick a goal?
I think you have to be somewhat realistic, at least to start out with. But you have to dream a little bit and be, have some big goal out there. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing is just you got to figure out where your passions are and what you want to do, and then also evaluate where your commitment is. People are in all different parts of their life where you can't train like you did because of other responsibilities that you might have. So I think the biggest thing is just really kind of play around with it a little bit. Don't just jump to the first thing that comes to mind. Think it through a little bit as far as like what you're really going to have time for, what you're really going to have the ability to do, not just physical ability to run fast, but do I have time? Do I have the resources I need to get to those places and those things? So no, I think it's hard because it's such an individualized thing, and each person is going to have their own goal, and just somebody, doesn't matter if you're trying to run, I don't know, 22 minutes for the 5K. It's just as big as an accomplishment as some other people running 16 minutes for the 5K. So it really depends on kind of each person individually.
Mm-hmm. So with picking these goals, as you said, it depends on the person themselves. But what would you say about modifying a goal over time? We just talked about the fact that sometimes people get caught up on that it has to be now, I have to do it soon. But if someone's thinking okay, if we took my example of the past when I really wanted to run for Great Britain, and had I not, I always thought I have to do this before I had kids, but had I not accomplished it beforehand, I could always have come back after kids to do it, right? That would have been me modifying that goal. Maybe I even did it as a master's. Maybe I did it in the 60 plus category, but there's always ways of modifying. Or if people want to run a sub 4 hour in the marathon, they may feel like the marathon just isn't their thing. It's not working for them, but they go to do some 5Ks and come back to it, and then they achieve it. So what would you say in terms of either modifying a goal if it's just not happened or the time has passed, or how people can change things up if they feel like it's hopeless?
I think modifying it is a little bit of a hard thing because you want to keep it to be that big dream goal, but I think it's okay to have maybe a different route you can take as well. So all right, can't quite get my Boston qualifier. I keep getting close. I keep missing it. Maybe step away from it for a little bit and then come back, focus on something else. It doesn't, it can get to the point where you just kind of beat yourself into the ground, constantly trying to do the same thing over and over again. So my advice is to kind of step away from it a little bit. Obviously there's other factors that, that might get in the way that force you to, that you only have X number of years before you have to, you're not going to be able to do it anymore. So that's a little bit different. But
when you said that, you were talking in terms of injuries, right?
No, I'm just saying Father Time's going to catch up to you. It's going to catch up to all of us. So if you want to, Boston may not be the greatest example because they have the age graded qualifications, but say you want to run a certain time in a race, there's going to be a certain point as your age that you're not going to be able to get faster. So, the funny thing about running is somebody decided that masters running was a thing, and then you get kind of focus on that for a while. So it's understanding that eventually, your faster days will be behind you, but you have to reinvent yourself and reinvent your goals. But that doesn't mean, like you said, just because you didn't get to run for Great Britain for, as a, early on, you might maybe get to reach that goal later. You didn't get to qualify for Boston in the 30 to 35 age group, but maybe you can qualify for Boston in the 40 plus, whatever it is. So it's modifying it that way, but keeping the true, passion of the goal still there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. All right, I am just going to take a moment to give you, you can get a drink because I can hear your throat's getting a bit, I don't know what the term would be, dry, I suppose, to just take a moment to thank our next sponsor for today, which is Zencastr. So Zencastr is a company that I use to host our podcast. Podcasting remotely can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. Zencastr is an all-in-one web-based solution that makes the process quick and painless the way it should be. If you know me, you know that I have been podcasting for many years. So I have had many opportunities to try out different platforms, different things to use. Zencastr has been by far and away my favorite platform to use. It is very easy. We use it for both Running Realized and for Running for Real. Makes it nice and easy for the guest. They just get a link directly emailed for them with instructions, and then it makes it so easy to just upload it. They also have a really clear HD video to go along with the conversations if that is something that you are interested in, for something you are considering working on and starting to record for. And Zencastr is all about making the podcasting experience easy and giving us local recording, which means if one person's internet connection is interrupted, it just continues recording from their computer, and they can continue to talk. So even if it cuts a little bit on your end, it will continue to record. That's one of my favorite things about it. So I want you to have the same easy experience that I do for all my podcasting and content needs. So if you go to zencastr.com/pricing and you enter promo code running for real, that's running for real, you will get 30% off your first 3 months. Go to zencastr.com/pricing, and it will be time for you to share your story. Okay, Steve, going back to what we were talking about. For someone who has been working for a goal for a while and feels like it's never going to happen, you mentioned like it's just not happening. You mentioned about stepping away, trying something different. You don't mean quitting running. What did you mean by that?
Well, just changing the distance, changing the terrain, changing the event. I think a lot of people get so focused on doing the same race over and over again that they don't realize that there's so many other great races and other ways that you can have enjoyment and have, be part of the sport. You don't have to. You see some people that just, they want to do the same race every year, and I want to try and beat my time from the year before, and you're just constantly comparing yourself. But I think it's fun to change it up, go to different races, get a different experience. So I was meaning, you're trying to run a half marathon time, or just change it up, go down, go to the trail, go to just. There's so many different avenues of our sport. Some people get so circled in on, I think that's just the nature of our sport. You just get so circled in on one thing that it drives you, and that's great. But at a certain point, you need to kind of change up what you're doing, and it helps your training in the long run.
Do you think or runners you've worked with ever get so focused on the outcome that they lose all the enjoyment out of it because it becomes just about the end?
Yeah, but I think that's just the nature of our sport and kind of how it works. Is you get so focused on hitting that goal, whatever it might be, time, place, whatever, qualifying mark, that you don't enjoy the process. And it's hard as a coach, you're trying to guide people and help them reach their goals, get to their achieve their successes, but at the same time, like, you're also trying to make sure that they don't overdo certain things that then they're kind of counterproductive.
Okay. All right. So one thing I want to mention quickly for the listeners, we do at Running for Real have a mental training course. So if a lot of things we've been talking about today are resonating with you, there are, I think, 14 modules for this course, including finding joy, confidence, positive self-talk, journaling, mental imagery, mantras, distraction, goal setting, mental bottles, race week, and handling positive and negative outcomes. You may find that interesting. You can go to tinamuir.com/mental training, and it'll take you right there, so you can go find out more about that. Okay, let's talk about people who potentially myself will find out. Maybe their best is behind them, and not having a structure. I actually, as you know, don't feel this way, but sometimes once you've accomplished something big, or once you, as you said, you start to get to that point where age is catching up to you, it can feel quite empty and unfulfilling. And for people who are very competitive, you can't just switch off that competitiveness, but it may just feel a bit off. What would you say to that person?
I would say obviously like I said, eventually there's going to come a time where your faster days are behind you, but it doesn't mean there aren't other adventures and other things to experience. And that's where I think some of the, well, I mean, just to take advantage of some of the elites, once they step away, they go to do, different challenges to stay in the sport. But there's other ways to be involved. It doesn't have to all be about running as fast as you can. You can do races as far as going to see different places too. So there's that side of the sport too. But I think the other thing is to find ways to be be the best version of yourself in the exact moment that you are, rather than comparing the time you ran 5 years ago. Like, hey, like this is the best I've felt on a run in a long time. This is the best I've felt in certain distances. So it's just learning to kind of not forget the past, but not to compare to it. Just like you don't want to compare yourself to every elite athlete or every high level Olympian. You don't want to also compare to your past self. Just focus on improving the areas you still can, and then just keep kind of trying to build.
So if you are comfortable sharing, maybe you could talk a little bit about that within yourself, because this has been that period for you with yourself as a runner, having to step back and kind of accept that things aren't going to be the way they were.
Yeah, I mean, mine was more forced as far as injury. So it was just one of those things where my body just physically can't do it. But it's just, finding the reason you do it. And the reason I do it, one of the reasons I do it isn't just to see how fast I can run. I like just the experience of it. And, to me, that was what it's become about, just something I enjoy doing for myself. But I mean, each person is going to be different. I mean, some people, once they can't run fast anymore, don't want to be involved in it. And that's, to me, that's sad, because I think running should be something you can do for the rest of your life. So for me, it was just, like I said, it was always about, I wanted to see how fast I could be, but I also, at a certain point had to realize that it's, there's other reasons I do it. And for me, it was, I just really enjoy it, and it helps me brings clarity to my life, as far as like helps me in my time to think.
Time away from me. Am I annoying?
Well, I don't run long enough for that. But no, I think it's, personally for me, it just, at a certain point, I put what I was doing ahead of my own running for a while, but then eventually I kind of figured out what running means for me now.
Do you think it does take a while, if you have always been that person who's done it, to be as fast as you could?
Yeah, I think it does. I think eventually you have to just face reality. Especially people just keep, trying to chase something when it may or may not happen. But that's, like I said, that's where you have to change your outlook on it. And it may not be about finding the fastest time anymore. It might be about trying to experience different races in different communities.
Mm-hmm. When I think there's something to be said about, for someone in your situation, or for many people listening who can't maybe handle the training they used to do, or don't handle it, and maybe aren't able to do what they want to do or what they used to do, it's very easy to look at that and be like, see it as, what have I lost? What do I not have anymore? But instead, I mean, you are a perfect example here of what, you may not be able to run as long as you would like or you wanted to, but what things do you gain back by having that? So for people listening, it might be, wow, I'm so jealous of my running friend who lives around the corner, who does 3 marathons a year and gets to go, to Boston every year. But for you, maybe by not having that trip, you get to take your family for a weekend to somewhere different each year, and that's what you gain out of the lesser running or the past of running. So I think it's important to mention that we might only see our running past being the fastest being behind us as what's been taken from me, or what I've lost, what I have to grieve. But there's also other things that you will get back, that other people in your life who you are jealous of will think, wow, that's so cool, they get to do that. Would you say that's been your experience in any way?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to even say yes to that because for me, I never really did it for anyone else but myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand the person you're talking about that wants to go do all those things and they just can't. But no, I think what you're saying is correct. I think people can reallocate that time maybe a little bit and find it, to do other things that are just as fulfilling. But I think it's good for people to think things through a little bit. And like I said, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. So, be thankful for what you have. And like I said, if anything we've learned in the last couple of years, it's you never know what's coming, but just enjoy. Like I said, just try and enjoy the days where you do feel good out on your run and you enjoy it and everything feels good. Just enjoy that. And there's going to be days where you're just getting through it.
Mm-hmm. For people who started off the year with, you mentioned we've talked about the little things, that we talked about doing some other things that help with your running beyond just the running. They started off good with that or whatever element they wanted to work on this year, but already they feel like they're slipping, they're slacking, they're not able to keep up. What would you tell that person who is just feeling pretty crappy about themselves? Like, oh, of course I didn't manage to follow through.
Well, like I said, just the same way you would eventually modify your goal, you have to kind of modify that as well. Like, all right, look, I know I'm supposed to be doing strength training twice a week. I haven't done it for months now.
Okay, I get the point, Steve.
I need to get back on, what I need to do. So, all right, I just need to do some body weight exercises for, twice this week or, whatever it is. Just back yourself off, clean the slate. All right, I know what I need to be doing and I'm not doing it. What's one thing I can do today to help me down that path to get back to that? So, and everybody's, like I said, nobody has the obsessive goal that I want to stretch 3 days a week. There's, you don't see somebody putting on their Instagram that, got my stretching session in today or got my
you do
foam rolling. But like I said, it's just not,
it's not glamorous.
It's not what people think about, but I would say do that. Just say, all right, I know I need to do this, but if I'm not strength training, I can do other things. I can just do body weight or do little things to help me get down that path so I can at least start moving the needle a little bit.
Okay. When it comes to structuring training around a goal race, let's say someone has picked something for, I guess we can't really give a time frame, but let's say someone has picked a goal race for the next half of a year. Something that you are really good at doing is working backwards from that race, figuring out what workouts go where. But maybe we could just talk for a few minutes about the logistical aspect of training, how when it comes to, even if someone is working with a coach, you would hope that the coach knows this and is thinking about this. But let's say someone who isn't, it's not just about waking up, okay, I've got a workout today. I feel like doing a tempo run, or I think I should probably do a long run today. What would you remind people as they go into structuring their training towards running for a goal?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just to think about it. And if you're working with a coach, the reason you're working with that coach is so you don't have to think about it. So you can just run what the training tells you to do. But what I would say is, all right, I want to run this race. It's 20 weeks from now. You have to kind of plan out what you're going to do. And, each person is going to be different. Each coach is going to have a little bit different philosophy. But the few things that are always going to be the same is that you have to, plan things out and really kind of think about, all right, I don't want to start overtraining too early or else I'm not going to make it. I mean, one of the biggest problems you see with people when they do marathon training is they never make it to the start line, and that's, for whatever reason. It could be they trained too hard too early or built up too fast. But no, I'd say the smartest thing to do is just really think about it, plan it out. There's no cookie cutter thing either. Oh, you need 16 weeks to train for this. Well, it depends on what you've done before, or what was your 4 weeks before your 16 weeks started. So everyone just needs to kind of think about it and be like, all right, I need to I need to understand where everything fits. And that's, like I said, there's no wrong answer or there's no right answer to that question. People are going to have different philosophies on it. But mine's always been, work backwards, be conscious of other parts too. And like I said, I've learned a lot in the last year or so working with people that aren't college athletes that, a lot of your, a lot of the training has to be structured around your other responsibilities. So just because you didn't follow the exact scientific right pattern doesn't make you any less of a runner or any less of prepared than anyone else. You just have to kind of adjust.
Okay. When you said about really thinking it through, for someone who that totally goes over their head or think about it, if that does mean they're like, I have no idea what do you mean by think about it? Is that a sign that, okay, if you have the ability to work with a coach, it's probably a good time to do so?
Yeah, I think for me, thinking about it just means not just waking up and figuring out your workout as you're warming up.
Okay.
It means just having a plan, having a structure to what you're doing. But like I said, every coach, that I know at least has some idea what they're doing in the future, and there's a plan to the training. So, if you're lost, if you don't know what to do, like I said, that's where finding somebody to help you is good. But, you don't, like I said, there's no magical workout. There's no magical anything. It's just be conscious of it. Don't build up too fast. Don't do the same type of training week after week after week. You need to vary it a little bit. So no, for me, it's more just, have a plan. But then, like I said, I used to be wanting to be so rigid. You just have to follow the plan. Everything doesn't go according to plan. Everything's off. But now you have to just understand that some days it's not going to be there, so you'll have to adjust.
Is there anything else with the training for a goal or a race that you think is important to add before we move on to the final bit?
I think it's just, understanding that there's so many things that go into the process of preparing for your race that if you don't get everything right, don't beat yourself up about it. Or if, you don't follow the plan your coach wrote for you exactly to the T, don't stress. Part of being a coach is learning to adapt and adjust and get the most out of your athletes, regardless of, kind of what's going on around them.
Do you think for you as a coach, is it always better for people to be honest with you about what's going on rather than not telling you? Because I hear that quite a lot where people have coaches and they don't tell the coach they haven't done a workout or that there's something changed because they don't want to let the coach down, but that makes your job harder, right?
Yeah, I'd want to know if you don't do something, because if that was something we really needed to do and you didn't do it, I'd rather do that again try and do it again next week rather than jump ahead to what we had. But no, it's hard because if you're not telling us what you're doing, we're pretty much flying blind and just trying to guess, and hopefully you follow the meat of it. But no, for me personally, the athletes I coach, I want to know. It's a little different for a college kid. I know that's a little bit different, but as far as anyone else, it messes everything up if we don't know that you didn't do something, or maybe you overdid it. Maybe you ran too long or ran too hard. We have to be able to make those adjustments, and without the feedback, you can't make them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So then finally coming on to people who either don't want goals, they're quite enjoying just doing training as it comes, or enjoying running, like for you, having it just be a part of your life that makes you feel good and is your kind of me time. Firstly, I want to just say, that's okay. We're very much in a society now that tells us that goals, especially in the running world, that goals are the way to do things, that you have to be training for a race, that's the be all and end all for everyone and everything. And even at Running for Real, we have had January is our month of together 22 goals, which makes it sound like we're making it very goal oriented, but the whole point of what we're doing and what I want to encourage listeners to do is, if it doesn't feel right to have a goal, or even if you set a goal and you're prepared to fail at it or not make it or not do what you need to do, that's okay too. I think we should maybe talk about this for just a few minutes for people who don't need those external motivations to do their runs every day. What would you say there?
I mean, it's okay to not have a goal. I mean, it depends how much you want to get out of it. Like I said, I mean, I still have goals for myself, but they're personal. They're mine. They're not anyone else's. They don't mean anything to anybody else either. But I think it's okay just to do something for your own self. And if that's running, that's great. If that's something else, that's great too. But you don't have to have a goal. I'll be honest, as a coach, if you don't have a goal, it's really hard to write you a plan. But if you just say, I don't really have a goal as far as how fast I want to run, but these are the races I want to do because I really want to experience them, then yeah, I can help you get ready for that race so you have a positive experience. It doesn't have to all be about how fast you run it.
Do you still consider that a goal though, where someone, like, could that not just be, I have a race or an experience I want to do? Like, to me, goals is more like having something specific that you want to achieve. Whereas,
I mean, I think, it is a goal, but a goal doesn't have to be tied to a time or even a race. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have those type of things to do training.
Okay. Now, I want to mention something from the Running for Real team put together, and during one of the Together 22 Goals sessions, which I will put information about that if you are interested. You can. The team has created this really cool PDF for you to fill out. And while, yes, it is halfway through the month, as I mentioned, it does not have to be about hitting check boxes and accomplishing and completing. It is about just taking a step in your life, as Steve was talking about at the very beginning, doing those little steps along the way to make changes in your life. So I will put some more information to those. We have some Zoom calls coming. There's regular check-ins. But one of the things that came up out of one of the previous Zoom meetings that we did was, for those people who are having a hard time planning out the whole year, around a specific goal, picking a word for the month, a word for each month that you want to focus on. So many people within that Zoom call were picking words like connection or community as a way to shape their everyday goals, but it can be whatever speaks to you in terms of just motivating you for that short period of time, or bringing to the forefront what matters for you. And that makes it easy to change throughout the year. Anything you'd add there? I know that's not your area, but...
No, I would just say it's, just like when you do training, you have phases, you have different points of emphasis on different part of your training. It's okay to have that in other things too. It can't just be all about how many miles you run and how fast you run them. Mm-hmm.
We are both definitely getting dry throats here, so that's what happens when you sit in the cold upstairs. So we are wrapping up here on goals, expectations, and I hope this episode was helpful for you, having Stephen here to lend his voice, his opinions to this conversation. I think it's something that, while I've addressed in the past, it hasn't been something we've talked about recently, and it's something that's definitely going on right now. And I just want to remind you that even if things seem to be falling apart right now, even if you're not managing to do what you want to do, and it's looking like once again you're letting yourself and everyone else down, you are not. You're out there doing it, even if it's not as much as you'd like. You are doing something that most of the population is not. And accomplishments and successes don't make you who you are. The people in your life don't love you because of what you're achieving and what you're doing. They love you for who you are. So just keep that in mind. I just want to take one more moment to thank our sponsors for today. So Zencastr, remember you can go to Zencastr, that's without the E at the end. So zencastr.com/pricing and use code running for real. That's with the word for running for real to get yourself 30% off the first 3 months. And also to Athletic Greens, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. And also we'll put a link to that mental training course if that is something you are interested in. There's a 12-week course to get you ready for your race, and it talks about a lot of the concepts we talked about today. Steve, anything else you want to add for the listeners about what we've talked about today?
No, I mean, I think just redefining the word goal. It doesn't have to be all about a time. Mm-hmm. There's other ways to set goals and to help keep yourself motivated.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next week. Hi, friends. Just a quick message to say a big thank you to the Running for Real team. While I may be the face of Running for Real and the voice behind the podcast, there are a group of people who are working tirelessly to provide everything that runners could need within our community to make our community stronger, better, and evolve and grow and learn from one another. We are working really hard to make Running for Real the place we believe it can be within our community. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone on our team. That is Victoria, Stacy, Sandy, Sally, Maria, Kelsey, Kat, Jeremy, and Erica. I appreciate each and every one of you and the hard work that you put in. Now let's get back to the show.